The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. We've got a great show for you tonight. Joining me this week on the Coach's Corner panel is John Decker and Jamie Leno-Zimron, and I'll tell you a little bit about each of them in just a moment. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined once again by golf fitness expert Bob Forman with some more great fitness tips for this week. So I hope you'll stick around for that as well. If you'd like to watch this week's show or any of the previously aired episodes, you can visit the iGolf Sports YouTube channel or follow us on Spotify.com. You can also catch the audio version on Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you get notified as new episodes drop each week. And if you're looking to step up your game, then join our growing community by becoming a premium member at golftipsmag.com. We have 3 membership levels available: silver, gold, and platinum. By joining, you'll gain access to premium content such as the latest golf tips from our top 25 instructors, golf news, equipment product reviews, plus top travel destinations just in time to book your next buddy trip. In addition, you'll receive special discounts from some of our premium partners. So go premium today at golftipsmag.com. All right, first up on the panel, of course, is John Decker. He is the Director of Instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also a senior contributing editor and top 25 instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. And he was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year, and is the author of 2 books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. And he's also available for public speaking upon request. Also on the panel tonight is Jamie Leno-Zimron. She is a Class A LPGA teacher professional. She's a 6th degree Aikido black belt, a somatic psychologist, a corporate speaker, and mind-body fitness trainer. And she graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Stanford University, and she's also the creator of iGolf, The Centered Way. So guys, once again, welcome back to Coach's Corner, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Ted.
Always happy to be here. Great to see you, John. Always fun.
Great seeing you, Jamie.
All right, so we're going to have fun. We're getting close, as I was mentioned to both of you just offline here. We're getting ready to wind down our season next month, so you guys will both be back one more time before the season ends, and then we'll take a break, and I'll tell everybody a little bit more about that in another show. But glad to have you back, and thank you for all of your input this season so far, and hopefully we'll end things in a bang, as they say. But thanks for coming on tonight. So I'm going to come, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to go with Jamie first this time, and then John. And I really, this is a question I'm going to ask for both of you. But what I want to ask you, Jamie, is, has golf instruction changed any in the following areas, individual and or group lessons? And if so, how? So in other words, has how we're doing golf lessons now, has it changed from maybe when you first got into the business, a few years back?
What a great question. I think things are always evolving, right?
Yep.
And I think there is, at long last, kind of a bit more of a holistic approach, which is, I feel like when I started teaching iGolf, Centered Way, it was kind of hard to get people's ears to talk about an integrated approach or a mind-body approach, not only technique or not only the clubs, not only mechanics, but that golf improvement has something to do with a golfer, which means us.
Right.
Which is always my first question to golfers: what makes your golf ball go? And I mean, ultimately, it's you. You and I make our golf ball go. So we've got to kind of get into who are we, and it's like our energy makes the golf ball go. So I think people are paying more attention to maybe integrating the different aspects. There's not just a mental game over there or
Right.
a fitness gym over there, fitness or uh, clubs. Like we got to kind of have them all work together in some way. So in that sense, I think our consciousness is rising. I'll put it that way. Um, not only in California, where I tend to, be from for the most part. Um, so in that sense, I think there's evolution that way. That being said, I think there's also in some ways more focus on technology that takes us away from ourselves. It's like, I get all my numbers, all of my stats, all of my spin rates. I get on,
Mm-hmm.
all the machines that can measure everything and I keep track of everything. In some ways, I would say that's kind of, we've also gone that direction. And golfers are still always looking for the magic bullet, right? Tell me what's wrong and give it to me, and then I'll do it, and then it's all going to be better. And it just isn't like that. So I think that we're going in some ways a little bit more in depth and in a holistic direction. Individually or group wise, I don't know if I could say if there's one more than the other. In some ways, I think that's a preference. People like to go to golf schools. They like immersion. They like the kind of retreat experience and getting out on the golf course for sure. For playing lessons and the camaraderie. So golf schools, I think, are popular. That being said, there is an individual focus. You can have generally maybe a 4-to-1 instructor to student ratio, because we really do need individual focus, which you get in individual lessons. So yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that the direction is more an awareness of, I mean, these are tremendous golf clubs and I just paid a whole bunch of money and I got the balls, everything fits in a sense. The balls fitted, the clubs are fitted.
Right.
For me, fit is about that ki, there's a harmony, but that we have to be harmonized within our own bodies, get all of our body parts working together, our mind and body working together with the clubs, with the instruction.
Yeah, well said. John, what about you? What about personally? How has the instruction changed for you over the years? I'm sure you agree with much of what Jamie had just said, but I think what she pointed out about individual and group lessons as an example. I think under certain circumstances, when somebody's a little bit better, and I don't mean they have to be super accomplished, but when they're a little bit better, I think that that 4-to-1 ratio, as an example, can be good because you're learning maybe maybe you're drilling down on bunkers or something like that. But for beginners, particularly, I think they might do it because they're more nervous about doing a one-on-one. So there's a lot of different variables you can throw into there. But what about you? From when you first became a golf professional, how has things changed for you and how the instruction is? What's different about it? How you teach, how you approach? Have you seen some significant changes over the years as well?
Well, Ted, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. And Jamie, I look forward to being on with you tonight as well. I think from a group standpoint, when I work with, I do a lot of ladies clinics. And when I do the clinics, we do them every spring and they actually go through the summer as well. And I now have a men's clinic that's come off of that. And from a clinic standpoint, my instruction hasn't changed any. When I'm standing in front of 12 to 30 people with, other instructors, it's, the nuts and bolts of how to hold the club and how to set up. So from that standpoint, I don't really see a big change, but individually, I see a huge change. And the biggest change that I see right now in golf is the advent of the cell phone, because now everyone can film their own swing. And so everyone's on YouTube and they're watching a million different videos. And so I do the same thing. When there's something that's broken in my house, I pull my phone out and I find a video and I figure out how to fix it. People are trying to do that with their golf swing, and unfortunately, it's just not that easy. I've always said, fixing a golf swing is not fixing a car, because you're dealing with a human being. You're dealing with just an array of different issues, and it's a very difficult game. It's extremely difficult game that looks easy. If you watch it on television, it looks really easy when you watch a really good player swing the club, but it's not easy. And we know that as teachers. And so when people start trying to do self-diagnosis on the YouTube videos and things like that, then that's where I see a big problem. So what I kind of started noticing this, and it would drive me crazy because I would be working with students, and then all of a sudden they said, well, last night or the other day I was looking at a video on YouTube, and so then they start trying to make these changes, and they're going off in a direction that we weren't even talking about.
Right.
That is very frustrating. So I always tell them, I said, I feel like when you do that, when you go on YouTube and you watch another instructor, I said, I feel like you're cheating on me. I said, I feel like a spouse that's been cheated on. So what I decided to do is I was like, I've got to solve this. So I got real heavy into my own YouTube channel and also my own website. And I started putting videos up there. And I said, if you want to watch videos, that's fine. I understand that some people love that, and that's the way they want to learn. I want you to go to my channel. I want you to watch my videos so that you're getting a consistent message. And I said, if you don't choose me as an instructor, that's fine. You go to another instructor, but stick with that instructor's videos. Don't start going down the rabbit hole of looking at every instructor out there, because if you do, you're going to make your game worse.
Yeah.
Can
Amen.
I can I piggyback on that a little? I was thinking when I'm so
Yeah,
glad you
go ahead,
brought that
Jamie.
up, John, because I was thinking what else might I have said, and definitely the advent of YouTube. I mean, there's so many YouTube golfer. I'm not going to say weekend warriors, whatever they are. They're just like my father, bless his heart and rest his soul. He was he had so many golf magazines. This was back in the day, right before
Right.
technology. So he had his magazines, and he had a new tip every week that he read in this magazine or that magazine. And I am just blown away at the amount of people who are learning golf from YouTube, and with this big array and smorgasbord and mixture, and it gets a little chaotic. I actually have someone in my family, I won't say who. He loves golf, but he had gotten himself down into the 80s. He was really coming along well, and I hadn't seen him for about 6 months. Meanwhile, he found some stuff on YouTube, and he's remaking his whole swing, like he's Tiger Woods back in the days. And it's like, and I just played with him, and it was difficult to watch, I have to say. That's all I'll say. So I think it is really important what John had to say. At least be consistent with what you're looking at on YouTube, and don't throw in this and then that and then go over and run over there and run over there. Or, with your own instructor and follow their videos or their instruction. Do a Zoom. I mean, that's something that we can do now. We can do remote teaching, which is really cool. But, I have some kind of consistency, and I know that from the martial arts. You can't be jumping around to a million teachers. It's nice to get some other input and ideas, but you have to have, to use the metaphor, your main squeeze, as far as your
Right.
structure.
Well, and you raise a good point. We're going to get into that here in just a second, but John and you're exactly right. I think it's okay to be aware of where I find the problem is. It's not, fellow instructors like John or like yourself posting up videos so much that is concerning to me. It's, these, for lack of better words, these, YouTube influencers that have, I used to be a 25 handicap and I've gotten myself down to a scratch, and here's how I did it. And they're throwing that, and people are falling into it. And, they're just throwing up all of these things. And, it might have worked for them if it's even legit. But the truth of the matter is there's always a catch to it. There's always something, or they want money, or they want that. And the problem is these people are not properly trained in the golf swing. They've maybe had some fortunate good luck, and that's great. It worked for them. But for the masses, it's not necessarily going to work. And what it does, it inhibits. And as you pointed out, John, it's great to, if you want to, if you got some plumbing work or something that needs, something light, obviously you should call a professional for that too. But, sometimes you can tinker around with a few things, and there's a great YouTube video or something for that. But when you're talking about something that like golf or even other sports where it involves a lot more discipline and things like that, martial arts, same thing. You can't just, watch a video and, and start doing these steps and thinking that you're going to be a master at whatever, in 3 months. It's just not going to happen. And this brings me, Jamie, because you sort of walked us into it a little bit in your first comments. But, so my question to you is, has technology helped and or hurt golf instruction? Explain how it has affected the game both positively and negatively. You've already touched on a few negative aspects of it. Obviously, it exposes a lot of people to a lot of potentially misinformation, but it also has affected positively. So just give me your thoughts on how it's affected positively, and maybe a few other different things that you've mentioned or haven't mentioned, rather, negatively, how it's hurt golf instruction in some ways.
Well, it is a two-edged sword, as we say. On balance, I think that technology is a huge help. And what I mean by that is we we can video our swings. We have our iPads. We have our our phones. You can set things up right there on the range. You can measure ball speed. You can measure all kinds of things with devices that they've made small enough and affordable enough for teachers, so you can have them right there on the range. It's nice to know and to be able to see more than we used to, and to have that be so immediate, to graph things. There's a lot of ways that I think technology has given us a much better view of ourselves, and uh, as a player, I can actually see what I'm doing, and then you can circle and draw, and
Right.
so you can really get the idea. And instructors have that aid to show to people right away. So I think that's tremendously helpful. Technology has been hugely helpful as far as equipment. Uh, I remember skiing when I was young, and then parabolic skis came along. Oh my God, what a game changer
Mm.
to have that just sea change in equipment helps so much. And the same is true, I think, with golf clubs. They're much more user friendly, shall we say, and hybrids, all this sort of stuff. So in those regards, I think the equipment is a lot better, and the ability to see ourselves and to, as instructors, show what we're talking about is very helpful. Um, Also with fitness, technology helps us with fitness and helps us to keep track of our stats, all that stuff a lot better. The downside, I think, has been what we've been referring to. Number one, the chaos that it can cause, and also I think it can put us back up in our heads. And one of my missions in life, as a somatic person, soma means the body in Greek, is to get people into their bodies, much more below their heads. And most of us kind of live up here. Body's
Mhm.
got kind of a bad rap, and a bad rap and a bad rap. But also, we want to know, and so we're up here and we're thinking about it and do this and do that. And you really need to have a presence and a command of your body, and the body and mind working together. So technology can be something that just sucks us back up into our head and away from feel. There's a lot of people who aren't necessarily analytic. They're
Yeah.
much more feel kind of players, and then they're looking at the technology because that's what you got to do these days. There's like almost like a peer pressure to be using technology. So I think that's, for me, the main downsides: too much in our heads and chaos.
Yeah, and I think it's also one last thing, and then John, I'm going to
Much
come to you with
chaos.
something different. Is um, one other point with technology, I think, from an instructional standpoint, is I think especially early on, it was it's exciting, it's still exciting, but it was very eye catching when you see all these gadgets out there that people can use for instruction. And I think, unfortunately, early on, I won't say a lot, but enough instructors got very wrapped up in the technology and spent more time um, teaching about the technology than actually teaching the golf game. And I think what ended up happening with some cases, people just got frustrated, got overwhelmed, and there was too much information overload. As you said, they got too much up in their head. So I think we're finding a nice balance now. We're engaging with technology, using it to help in instruction to make things better for people. But at the same time, we're not overwhelming them the same as maybe what we did in the earlier days. So, but great points that you raised, Jamie. I want to go on, John, with this one here. So this was something that I was kind of alluding to just before Jamie came on air. I'm putting together a new program called the 90-Day Golf Improvement Challenge, and this is kind of based off of this. So um, my question to you is, it's a multi-phased question, of course, as I try to throw a few loops in there. So how much time should a student expect to invest to see realistic changes in their swing or their game? And given that there's time limitations, people are limited with their time, they've got other activities going on. What would be an acceptable, and I'm talking about from your perspective as a coach, what would be an acceptable amount of time allotted weekly for them to be able to see those changes. So they're trying to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but they're trying to get a good solid golf game. You're going to put a program together. How much time realistically, in order to see changes, do they need to invest if they really seriously want to get better? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a great question, because you have to first of all define what getting better is, and the expectations of the students. So that's one of the first things I ask my students. I took a playing lesson today with a really good player here that I used to teach, Bob Sowards, I played on the PGA Tour, and I actually went to him because I want him to help me. And so we were playing, and the first thing I did is I told him my goals for next year. So if you're a student out there and you go to a lesson, the first thing that you should do when you meet that instructor for the first time is you should let that instructor know that what your expectations are, what you want to accomplish. Because if your goal is to learn how to hit the golf ball in the air and you can't get the ball in the air, that is totally different than someone who says to me, I want to play Division I college golf. There's two totally different levels of, and both of them, I get both of those in my day as a teacher. So my rule is this: for every hour that you're with me, you need to spend a minimum of 1 hour outside of the lesson before I see you again. That is a minimum. That is, that means you're going to barely improve, or you're going to maintain and not get worse. If you put in more time, you're going to get better results. So I like to see my students once a week, because I feel like that gives them a time. I realize that the average person that comes to me doesn't have 5 to 6 days to work on their game like a tour player. So if they can practice 2 to 3 times before they see me again, then I don't want to use the word guarantee, but I tell them by the time we get done with our lesson series, you are going to be well on your way to meeting your goals. Now, some of the goals may be long-term goals that may take years to accomplish, but that to me is my guideline. If I have a student and I work with them, and the next week I see him and I said, how's it been going? Well, I hadn't picked up a club since our last lesson. Well, I know where that lesson's going immediately.
Right.
It's going to be a rinse and repeat lesson, or we're going to have to go to the short game, or something different that we haven't covered, because I'm pretty much going to be, repeating that. So I give them that information up front. It's for them to do it. I say, ultimately, my job is to teach you the technique, and your job is to practice.
Yep.
And if we have that relationship, and I can teach you the technique and you're practicing, I promise you, you will improve. If you don't practice, then the technique I teach you is not going to take hold. Even if you're a really highly skilled player, you're not going to see the benefits. You must put in the time and the practice. And that ultimately comes down to the student. So, part of my job is being a little bit of a cheerleader, being a motivator. Sometimes I have to crack the whip on students and say, you're not doing enough here to meet the goals. Because remember, these were the goals that you gave me when we started. You're not meeting your end of the deal. I'm here every week on our scheduled time to do the lesson. Let's put in the effort and practice, and you're going to start seeing those results.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just a couple things I was thinking about. You're exactly right. You have to establish what their goals are up front, because you can put the best lesson plan together, but if you don't really identify what it is they're looking to accomplish at the end of whatever the session or sessions that are going to be, then it's very difficult to make sure that what you're putting together is going to help to meet that. And at the same time is, what is their level of commitment? What are they willing to invest in time? And again, some might only be able to do that hour in between lessons. If you're doing it weekly, some might be able to do 2 or 3 hours, spread out maybe over a couple of days. So you have to first establish what level they want to be at. Obviously, if they want to play Division I, and I'm going to get to you, Jamie, in a second about that, because with my next question, because that's something I think we need to discuss as well. But, people have to, I've worked years and years and years with, again, as I've mentioned many times on the show, I've worked mainly corporate golf. That's what I specialized in, because I always had a corporate background. And I used to say to these guys, if you're willing to put that time in the boardroom and your business, and you say, I want to become a better player, well, then you need to put similar time and effort into your golf game. Otherwise, if you just want to be a weekend warrior, but if you want to, you can't just put in a haphazard, effort into your business and expect it to succeed. Well, that's the same way it applies here in your golf game. If you're going to just haphazardly show up every once in a while and maybe go out to do a couple of putts here and there and then show up for the next lesson, not prepared and not really, working through the process, then you're not going to get better and it's just wasting my time. And I've actually, over the years, I've actually cut corporate clients loose. I've just said, thank you very much. I'd love to have your business, but I can't keep coming out here week in, week out, and you're not filling your obligation. And I've just said, maybe you need to, look elsewhere. And some of them were a little shocked, but you have to crack the whip, as you said. Jamie, I want to talk to you about this because this is one I think John sort of tipped on this a little bit. So I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want to get your thoughts on how you would handle this particular situation. So you've got 3 months to prepare a new student. They've come to you and they said, I want to get Division I, in a golf team, and I need to do whatever I need to do that. What are you going to work on and why? So this is what they've come to you with a goal and said, I want to be, Division I player. I want to get on XYZ golf team. I'm going to be going to that college. I want to apply. I want to do whatever I need to do. What are you going to do as a coach? And you've only got 3 months before, they're going to be looked at. And I know it's not a lot of time. And assuming that they're a fairly decent player, if they're trying to go Division I, they've got to be a pretty decent player. So, but what are your thoughts? What are you going to do here to get them in the right track, to give them the best opportunity to hopefully meet that goal?
Well, I'm going to give you a bit of a plan that may sound a little funny at first, but I would focus for the first month, okay, on a short game putting and approach shots, 100, 120 yards in. Depends where this person's at. They're a high school golfer, they're shooting in the 80s or something, and they want to, something like that, okay? I am going to have them really drill down on that part of their game and their swing. And I'm going to tell you why. Putting is take it back, hit it square, follow through, okay, on the line. Gives you the target line and gives you a tempo, a balance, a control, a focus, gives you a lot of things, okay? And as we know, putting is crucial to scoring. So becoming a better putter. So we're going to work on putting. Then we're going to work on short shots, starting with chips and back to some hit shots, bunker shots, greenside bunker shots. And then we'll move back 40-yard, 50, 60-yard shots up to around 100, okay, approach shots. That's all I'm going to let them do. And we're going to work on, for me, the mechanics of from here to here, okay, the hitting zone, the target line, impact, and hitting zone, and what you're doing with your legs and feet, your stability. I think the back knee is very important for the back leg. But anyways, just the guts of the swing. To me, that's the guts of the swing. And if you can hit those shots, and in this month, you're going to practice those shots, okay? And you're also going to practice them from different lies, from different angles, short, medium, long pins. There's a lot of variety you can put into there. And I'm going to work with them and have them practice a lot until they're bored. They're hitting such good shots all the time. They're making centered contact. They're hitting the sweet spot. They're on target. They're getting control of distance, whether it's in their putts or their short shots or their approach shots. If that part of the game can really get strong and they're just going to focus on that, that's also, again, going to give them guts of the swing. Then we're going to add, longer clubs one by one. Okay, we'll start going down the bag. We'll get to your 9-iron, 8, 7, 6, etc. Then we'll get down to fairway shots. But we're going to take each of those as a project. I like to call it a project. Focusing on this, I'm really going to work on it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And so each area of the game is going to get strong in those 3 months. So of course, we'll get back to driving, to the driver. And then we'll spend some, let's say the last few weeks or month out there on the golf course. We'll start getting on the golf course second and third month. First month, not even very much, except for the assignment is to go and play executive courses. with that in that first month. Now, why am I saying this? This is a story I tell my students. Years ago, I'm not much of a musician, but I wanted to play the banjo. And so I went to the banjo store, and this woman said, "Hi, I'm Phyllis, you can call me Phil. I'm going to be your teacher." And she showed me the banjo and how to do the mechanics of a roll, the rolling sound, forward roll, backward roll, alternating roll. That's it. Sent me home. I came back after a week. Sent me home, same lesson. 2 weeks, now I'm rolling. I'm all ready to play the banjo. Third week, same. Fourth week, same. I was like mouthing off, like, this is boring. This is too slow. Da 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 da. She made me do a whole month. It wasn't until the fifth lesson. All I did was this, for a whole month. Let me tell you, it takes a month for your brain to grow these little dendrites and create neural pathways so that you're not thinking about it anymore. We call it muscle memory. Well, I never thought about what this hand was doing ever again. The fifth week, when she showed me some fingernails, Cripple Creek Banjo Classic, I sounded like a banjo player. Oh my God. And my repertoire over the next month just like exploded. And I sounded good because my brain space was freed. I didn't have to think about this anymore. Now I can start worrying about this and the tablature, etc. So I issue my banjo challenge to my golfers. Give me all your golf clubs. They're going to my garage for a month. And I give you just, from wedge in. And we really focus on that. People have done that. And these are players who have been either beginners or people plateaued. They're plateaued at their 95 or their 90 or their 85, whatever. They make a quantum leap when they take the time to do this for a month. And they have a lot more fun than I did. This was pretty boring. You have so many variations in that I described in the short shots. So I think that is going to help scoring. It's going to get them set. We're going to focus on that, all their mental game, their mind-body connection. You can make challenges, competitions. You can do so many things to get that part of your game solid as can be, and then take that to the longer and longer game and to the golf course.
Well said. You're exactly right. And this is what I was, telling John about earlier, is the 90-day golf improvement challenge that I put together was based on that same principle. And again, I've used it very effectively over the years with a lot of my corporate clients, because again, you're not going to learn something in a couple of golf lessons. And if you really want to become a better player, you've got to do things. And it comes across, as you said, very sort of unorthodox in the beginning when you hear, okay, I do that, I'm doing the same thing, doing the same thing, doing the same thing. But you're creating a pattern that, again, your body is learning and developing and becoming really to the point where you don't even think about it. And if you look at some of the best players in the world, Tiger, arguably one of the best in the world, depending on who you ask, it gets to the point he doesn't even think about it anymore. I mean, he has done these things so much in his career that he really doesn't think about it. And he's thinking about, something entirely different. And that's at that level. And that brings me to this question with you, John, is tour players require obviously a different approach. So how does your role change when you're working with a player at this level? What are the priorities at this point? So you've now got a tour player that's come to you and said, John, I heard you're doing some great stuff. I've had a little bit of shakiness on tour here lately, and I really need to work with somebody. What are you going to do? Because obviously they know how to hit the ball. They're just having some issues in that. So jump in.
Well, a tour player knows their problem. They know what their problem is. They come to me and they say it's putting or pitching or them not hitting the fairways, or I need more length, or whatever it is. They just don't know how to fix it, or they can't see themselves, or they want to pick my brain or whatever. So when I've worked with players at that level, and those players don't just walk in the door every day, but when I've worked with players of that level, I treat it again like, what I want to know, what they're feeling when they're out there on the golf course. I want to know what the struggles what they're kind of thinking about. That, like, if it's a full swing issue, for example, I say, what are you thinking about in your swing as you're swinging the club? I want to kind of get an idea. Are they mechanical? Are they thinking about three mechanical swing thoughts, which can't be done successfully to play at the tour level or any level, to be honest with you? Or is it something that's so obvious on the video, like a setup issue that they just don't see? And a lot of times with a tour player, it is in the setup. It's amazing how it's a ball position issue, or distance from the ball, or a weight distribution. their weight gets back too much in their heels, or their stance gets a little too narrow or a little too wide. And then you make that little tweak, and then it's like they're like a high performance car. And you make that little tweak, and then boom, they go. And so that's when you're working with a tour player. Um, that's the majority of the stuff is in the setup. They already have an idea that something's wrong. They can't figure out what it is, and then it's your job as a teacher to kind of find it. And now with today's technology, the measurables are much easier to show someone. That, hey, by making this change, your swing speed increased. Or you're hitting it more in the center of the club face, or whatever, or in the Sam's putting lab, you're maybe your stroke is better, or whatever it is they're struggling with. The technology today can confirm that as well.
Yeah, well said. And yeah, it is interesting. It's amazing. You're right. It's amazing when I hear, tour players talk in interviews, and they're asked, we didn't play that well in the last few weeks, and some of them might jump to and say, well, I've been putting as well and things like that. But sometimes you will hear them come right out and say something about their setup. They weren't. They moved the ball position back a little bit more, and so they've identified through their swing coaches and through their sometimes on their own, but that level, it's a whole different approach. You're not going to teach them the golf swing at that point because they've already know the golf swing. They're just finding they're not firing on all cylinders at that particular time, and they need to isolate that. So yeah, that's a great point. All right, I've got an interesting question. I was going to save this for the end of the year, but I'm going to ask it tonight anyways. And I thought I'm going to ask both of you the same question. Try not to get too misty-eyed on this one, but Jamie, I'm going to come to you, ladies first. When you finally hang up your teaching hat, what will you miss most about being a golf professional? And hopefully that won't be for many years, but there will come a day when you'll say, okay, it's time to hang up the old teaching hat. And what will you miss most about being a golf professional?
My students, actually. How's that? I love the interaction. I love the communication. I love the joy at improvements. I love the the communication challenges, and the interaction is really fun. And when we connect, it's like when you connect with a great shot, you find that sweet spot. And the sweet spot in the whole teacher-student relationship, learning teaching relationship, is such a joy. I would say that's what I would miss the most. How's that?
I think
And being out there, being
No, of
outside with
course.
them. Yeah, it's just great. It's a great job,
That's right.
trading in the indoor office for the outdoor office, the range, the golf course. There's nothing like it, right?
Yeah, it's the best gig out there. John, what about you? There's going to come a point in time, unfortunately, Mother Nature will get the best of us at some point, but hopefully not for many, many years. What will you miss most about being a golf professional when it's time for you to hang up your hat?
Well, Jamie alluded to the relationship, and the relationships with your students, and that was the first thing that popped in my head. But I think the thing that I like most about teaching is, and I remember the very first time this was kind of an aha moment for me, is the fact that people are coming to me because I have the answer.
Mhm.
And I may not always have the answer. I'm not saying this in that I always have the answer, but they're coming to me because they think that I have the answer. That's probably the best way to put it. And there's something about that's very gratifying, that you have something that other people want to help make them better. And that is something that, if someone came to me and said, how do I fix, my kitchen sink? I wouldn't be able to tell them. I might be able to help them a little bit, but I don't have the expertise to do this. This is my skill set. This is the one thing that I can do really well, better than most people that I'm around, as far as that come through the door that play the game. There's a lot of people that are better players than I am, but they don't know how to teach. And having that ability and being able to answer someone's question and then see the gratification that the answer that you gave them and that drill that you gave them helped them to have the best round of their life. That's what I'm probably going to miss the most.
Well said. I think I could probably sum this up for all three of us, but pretty much anybody that's going to come on the show as a golf professional with one statement. And that is, I think the underlying thing that as a golf professional that we enjoy the most, and that is helping other people. And that's really the thing that I would miss the most is, obviously you're going to do the best, but when there comes a point you just can't do certain things anymore for whatever reason, that would be the thing I think I would miss is, and again, you both have in a roundabout way have alluded to the same thing. And that is really, you enjoy the communication and that, but really as a teaching professional, you enjoy helping others become better at what it is that they want to achieve. And whether it's to be a tour player, whether it's to just be, a happy weekend golfer, maybe it's a couple that wants to go out and just have more enjoyment together. We enjoy as professionals helping other people become the very best that they can be. And that's very, very satisfying, very gratifying, and very humbling. Was really, I think, a word I would have used as well, John. On our side of the thing is just to know that you have knowledge that can make those dreams, if you will, in some cases come true. And I think that's the one of the things that I would miss the most as a teach professional is the ability to be able to get out there, day in, day out, whatever, and just help others become the best that they can be. So on that note, we got to wrap up because I got to get ready for my next segment. But great discussion, guys. It was interesting topics tonight. We're going to try to, wind down the season here in the next few weeks. And I think this was a good start to lead into the new year. But Jamie, if you want to let the folks know the best way they can reach out to you, and then John.
Sure. Thanks, Ted. Wonderful questions and great discussion. Good energy. People can reach me through my website, which is thecenteredway.com. Email Jamie, Jamie, Jamie at thecenteredway.com. And give me a call, send me a text. +1 760 492 golf 4653. You can look for me at LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, Jamie Leno-Zimron. And what we were just talking about, love to interact, love to communicate, and love to help if possible.
That's right. Well said. And John, what about you? Best way that folks can reach out for you as well?
Well, Ted, again, thank you for having us on the show. And Jamie, I enjoyed it as always. For the listeners out there, if you want to get in touch with me, my website is deckergolf.com. I'm also available on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And my books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble website, and Walmart websites. And I'm also available for public speaking. So if you're interested in having me come to your facility to speak about my book or speak about, do golf instruction, feel free to reach out to me. My information's on, that information is on my website as well.
Perfect. And make sure you watch John's videos. He's got some good videos on his YouTube channel. So don't watch those other
don't cheat on
wonders.
me, right?
Yeah, don't cheat on John. On that note, I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and when I come back, I'll be joined by my very special guest, certified golf fitness instructor, Bob Forman.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to reach your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back, everybody. And once again, I'm excited to have my next guest. He's been a regular here this year on the show. Of course, I'm talking about our golf fitness expert, Bob Forman. He is a former director of fitness and wellness for the Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland. He's internationally known as a leader in the field of golf fitness, and his programs have been recognized multiple years by the Golf Fitness Association of America. He holds a Master of Science degree in exercise physiology and is a certified golf fitness instructor through the Titleist Performance Institute and Gray Institutes. And he's also an author of Functional Golf Fitness Training, which is available at thebookpatch.com. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. So tonight, we're going to talk about, we've got some videos lined up as well that we're going to show you here shortly, but we're going to have a conversation first. We're going to talk about flexibility and power. Everybody wants to learn about flexibility. We've talked about some of those things throughout the earlier episodes this season, but everybody also wants to know how to gain some extra power to get those balls flying a little bit further out into the fairway. So we'll talk about that through some of the exercises as well. But Bob, welcome to the show.
Ted, thanks for having me back.
I appreciate it. Always happy to have you here. And so let's do this. So do you want to talk about flexibility first, or do you want to talk about power first?
Well, power is a product of strength and flexibility. So, I mean, some of the conversations we had over the past few weeks, we'll cover a lot of that information, but, that's something you have to develop. You have to develop both those entities, the strength and the flexibility, in order to generate more power. So we can jump right into the power if you want.
Sure. Obviously, we've had some great discussions, as you pointed out, about flexibility and obviously building strength. And we've given you some great physical tips as well on exercise and how to do that. But everybody, Bob, I don't care who it is you ask, and especially the guys are probably more so than the girls. Every guy wants more power. How can I hit that ball further? So what do we do to increase that power?
Yeah, and I'm one of those as well. I'd like to get down the fairway a little further. I mean, I think, like you say, we're all kind of in that same boat.
Right.
I mean, there's several ways you can develop more power, and it all relates really to kind of club head speed, right? And I mean, you can go and buy some lighter clubs, because the theory there is a lighter club, you can swing it faster and generate more club head speed. And they've been tinkering around with grips and shafts and the head of the club and stuff like that to accommodate the golfer. But it's still, you still have to work on the mechanism that's swinging that golf club, and that's your body. If your body's just not well prepared to swing the lighter golf club, it's really not going to make much of a difference. So, a lot of emphasis and a lot of attention needs to be drawn to the physical aspect of the golf swing. And again, that's where strength and flexibility come into play. And it's important that you develop those before you jump into the power phase of your program, because the power phase is a little bit more intense. And if you don't develop that good base of strength and flexibility, the injury potential may be a little more riskier. So there's definitely, you got to crawl before you walk, and you got to walk before you run in regards to developing power.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that a little bit more, as a golf instructor, I know that there are many things that you can do on our side. Again, help leading people into better equipment choices. I mean, I see a lot of folks out there that will buy the wrong equipment. They're swinging, stiff, or even in some cases extra stiff shafts, and they're not generating enough club head speed, and they wonder why the ball's not going anywhere. And then I see, others using a heavier weighted shaft as well. And again, the different types of golf clubs. I mean, we can go through, conversation for 2 hours and just talk about, some of that as well. But so there's a lot of change that made there, but the physical part of it as well. And what's really interesting, I like about a lot of the exercises and a lot of the discussions that we've had this year, is this is not necessarily something designed for just young golfers out there. There's a lot of seasoned veterans out there who can get out there and do a lot of these exercises. You've laid them out very well and done them in such a way that it doesn't really matter what age you are. When done properly, you can gain some distance, you can get some strength and flexibility from the exercise that we've been talking about throughout the season. And we're going to be doing a few more tonight here in these videos. But what's interesting, I want to just touch on this real quick, is we've got 4 videos that we're going to watch. We're going to watch those in a few moments. But you've come up with some really, interesting names for these, and I jotted them down here. So you've got, and again, in no particular order, you've got the kneeling bench curl, which sounds, relatively normal. You've got the alternate Russian twist. You got the medicine ball slams. And I don't know if I got this one right, but a back step, and I think there's a word missing, but punch in there. So you've got some really good names in there. And when you see the videos, guys, a little bit here in just a little bit, you'll understand that the names are very fitting. But how did you come up with these? I mean, these are just, they're spot on. They really spot on.
Well, I try to, pick out a name that would kind of best describe, if we didn't have the videos and you mentioned those names, hopefully people would have some sort of vision as to what we're talking about. But the power aspect is important to do. And, as we get older, you talk about senior golfers too. I mean, one thing that you have to keep in mind that's impacting the game of golf, or your ability to play the game of golf, is a condition called sarcopenia. And it's something we've talked about in the past, but just to reiterate, I mean, we all are inflicted with this process. And basically, it's an inevitable loss of muscle tissue. And it starts at the ripe old age of 30. And when you get into your 50s, it just takes off. So you're losing, quite a bit of muscle mass every year, every decade. Most of that muscle mass is lost in the legs. And most of that is what's called fast twitch muscle fiber. So you have 2 types of muscle fiber. You have your slow twitch and your fast twitch. Thanksgiving's coming up in a couple of weeks. You're going to have the turkey in front of you. And the question is going to be asked, do you want the dark meat or the white meat? So basically the dark meat is the slow twitch muscle fiber. It's more vascularized because it's geared more for endurance type activities. So like marathon runners would probably have a greater percentage of slow twitch muscle fiber because they need that for their events. The white meat is your fast twitch muscle fiber, and that's geared for short, quick bursts of energy. So in the turkey, the dark meat is in the legs because it's walking around all day long, and the white meat is in the breast and the wings because it doesn't fly. So as you lose the fast twitch muscle fiber, you're kind of losing your ability to generate that club head speed. So unless you do something to kind of slow that process down, you can't prevent it entirely, but you can slow the process down. And if you haven't been doing anything in terms of strength training, you can get some of that muscle tissue back. So that's one important concept that you got to keep in mind, that as we get older, there's a reason for the senior T's. It's because, we don't have as much muscle mass, so we can't produce as much power. But yes, we can. So, and that's where we get into the discussion tonight.
Yeah, and let me just add real quickly. I mean, there are a lot of things as we're going to talk about here, and we're going to see in a moment with some of the different videos that we've prepared. But I think what a lot of people have to keep in mind too is you have to be realistic with your expectations. Everything, I don't care what it is. I mean, you can certainly gain, the strength and flexibility as we've talked about. You can gain the power, but it takes time, and you have to, it's not just going to happen overnight. It's a work in process. Same thing with the golf swing. And I think, unfortunately, we were having this discussion earlier on in the Coach's Corner segment where people, their expectations, they want everything now. Everything's instant gratification. They want to go to the lesson tee and they want to, expect to be striping them down the middle, after a lesson or two. And it's just not going to happen in most cases. I mean, some people are very athletic and might pick up on some cues real quickly, but for the most part, it takes a little bit longer. And this is really what we're talking about. But the other thing that also we have to keep in mind is if you want to prolong, in other words, have longevity then these are things on the fitness side that you have to keep doing as you go along. You can't just do it for, 30 days, say, okay, well, that's it for the rest of my life. These are things that are ongoing because, again, as you said, you're losing muscle mass. And I gotta tell you, most of mine dropped to my stomach, I think, when I hit 50. You weren't kidding, it zipped down there fast. But, but all kidding aside, you're exactly right. As we get older, our bodies change, and some for the good and some not for the good. But the bottom line is we can then get into sort of a maintenance, if you will, because we're not going to gain the muscle mass that we had when we were in our 20s and 30s and things like that in most cases. And I think it becomes a maintenance, and there is some gain that to be had. Is that an accurate statement, do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, and but if you don't get into the gym and if you don't do any type of strength training, you're not gonna, get any progress out of that. So it's important to kind of be regular with that, and not only on the golf course, but just in your activities of daily living and your quality of life. It's going to help you get through those later years, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So get to the gym.
Yeah, I agree. And for some reason, if you can't, a lot of these exercises you might be able to do at home, just a little bit of equipment, light. It's not, it's not going to break the bank. And you'll see what we're talking about here in a moment. So if you have to, and you can't get to the gym for whatever reason, these are some of the things that you can certainly get home. So I think if we're ready, do you want to get into the videos now? And is there anything else that you want to mention before we do, or?
Well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about swing mechanics.
Okay.
We talked several weeks ago about posture, right? Because there are certain swing faults that can rob you of distance, regardless of the condition you're in. So, I mean, one of those is the epidemic we see quite a bit in golfers, and that's the C posture.
Yep.
Your address at, your posture at address over the ball. And if you're kind of bowed and rounded in the shoulders, that's going to limit your ability to take the club back into the backswing. And so if you're not generating as much club head distance to generate that club head speed, you're going to rob yourself of, getting down the fairway. So posture is a big factor in terms of generating more distance, generating more power in your swing. So again, go back to some of the episodes that we did to talk about posture, specifically C posture, because it is very common. One other thing, is lack of external shoulder rotation in the shoulder. Specifically, again, the trail shoulder, which would be the right shoulder for a right-handed golfer. If you don't have that mobility, specifically external rotation, again, it may limit your ability to take the club back. And again, that will shorten your backswing, which will shorten your downswing, which will again rob you the ability of generating power and distance. So there are things that we've discussed in the past, and if they go back to the older episodes and to leaf through those, you'll get more information on that in regards to swing mechanics. Sure.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, it's a multifaceted thing. There's a lot of things involved. It's not all fitness, of course, and this is something that really it's important from your standpoint for people to get involved with somebody like yourself that's a golf fitness instructor, certified instructor, and then obviously with their swing coach or their teach professional that's teaching the game itself. There's certain mechanics and things, but yeah, posture and your setup. Everything starts with Nicholas famously talked about how everything started with the setup. And, if you're slumped over and, and you're this way and that way, and you're not really, then you're not going to set yourself up for success. You're going to end up having, and a lot of that sometimes can be caused with not just incorrectly setting up, but because of issues like slumped over shoulders. And I think a lot of people get into this trap because they're working at a desk all day. They're in front of a computer and their shoulders are, forced forward, if you will. And they're always in that position. And what happens is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the muscles in the front get shorter, and the back muscles obviously have to stretch a little bit more, so they're a little bit longer, right? And you get that bowed, and next thing you know, you see people walking down the street, and they're that way almost permanently, or looks like that way, and it's just they walk like that.
Yeah,
And
a simple test is to just stand in front of a mirror with your arms down at your side, and then take a look at your thumbs. If they're pointing straight ahead, that usually means you have pretty good posture with the shoulders back. If the thumbs are starting to rotate inwards, that's pretty good sign that your shoulders are rounded because of those factors that you mentioned, and that's going to impact your golf swing. So yeah, simple assessment you can do on yourself to determine whether or not you should be working on those specific exercises to fix that posture. And again, we've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, and if you go to the iGolf Sports YouTube channel, all of the previously aired episodes and tonight's will be up there as well. You can go and check those out. And as I said, Bob has been on several times this year talking about different things, some great exercises and tips that he's given along throughout the season. And definitely go back. And I know we'll talk about his website a little bit later on as we wrap up. And I know he's got a lot of the information up there as well that you definitely want to check out. So, all right.
One other thing.
One more thing. Yep. Go ahead.
The last episode we did 2 weeks ago, we talked about reverse spine, where the individual is starting to lean back towards the target on the backswing because of several factors. I failed to mention that particular swing fault will also kind of rob you of distance because of the fact that when you go into reverse spine, leaning back towards the target, the upper body takes over the downswing generally. So what that means is you'll tend to cast the club out a little bit sooner. You'll kind of release the wrist hinge a little sooner in the downswing, which will kind of add loft to the club, so your trajectory will be more up versus out. And you tend to come over the top, so you tend to slice the ball. So it's kind of a weak slice, and you're frustrated. So again, that's another swing fault, that's related to specific muscle deficiencies that we talked about 2 weeks ago that they should definitely look up.
Yeah, the reverse spine was definitely a good one to discuss. And I see a lot of guys, as I think I mentioned on that show, a lot of guys on the range that fall into that trap. So yeah, it's exactly, and then they wonder why they're hitting it all over the place, not making good solid contact because they're just not setting up. And some of it could be just, they're not setting up correctly to begin with, but a lot of it, I'm sure, could be dialed back to the fact that there's weak areas in their body that are not being addressed and need to be addressed and so forth. So yeah, that's a great point.
There's that collaboration, between the physical and the technique. So, you got to work on both angles.
Yep, that's right. You can't have one without the other. All right, so I've got everything queued up here. Let me just put it live, and then we're going to start with our first video here, and I'll get you to tell us which video this is. So I'm just going to start the first video, and then we'll watch it, and then I'll get you to comment.
Here's an exercise that's going to combine power, it's going to combine the swing sequence, and it's going to throw in a little coordination and balance. I like to call it alternate Russian. I've got an exercise tube. I've attached one end to something solid. I've looped the handle through the other handle to give me an anchor. I'm going to grab onto the other side. I'm going to step back to get some tension on the tube. I'm going to start with my feet parallel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to step back on an angle. That's going to start the swing sequence, right? I'm going to open up my hips. That's going to be followed by my trunk and then my arms, and then I come back under control, and I do the same thing to the opposite side. Now, to turn this into a power exercise, I'm going to explode in the swing. Step and swing. Step and swing. So I'm going to start hips, trunk, arms. 10 to 15 to 20 on each side. You'll get a little cardio out of this, as you do with most power exercises, but a great exercise to also, like I say, throw in a little coordination and balance to help you with your golf swing. Give it a shot for better golf.
All right, I want to stop it right there before we move on to our next video. So what was really interesting, I really like this particular video that you gave me, Bob, because it really works on the rotational aspect of the golf swing. It really helps, and again, by ramping it up to a power move, and for helping to gain a little bit more distance, again, you've altered the exercise a little bit. So just sort of briefly walk us through what you're doing here, what we just watched, and why that's important and how it affects the golf swing.
Yeah, a lot of the strength exercises can be turned into speed/power exercises. And this particular exercise, the Russian twist, is a perfect example. And it's nice because it kind of mimics the golf swing in that it also brings in the sequencing, the kinetic chain, working from the ground up. That's really where the swing should come from, right? You want the lower body to initiate the swing, the hips, followed by the trunk, then the arms, and then eventually the club. So this exercise will not only kind of help to recruit, and the whole idea behind power exercises is that you want to recruit those faster twitch muscle fibers that you have left over that you haven't lost yet. So the more you can do that, the more you're going to be able to do that on the golf course. So this combines that with the speed element, and it combines the sequencing of the golf swing. So this is a great exercise. But again, make sure you develop your flexibility and your strength first. Get a good base before you start jumping into the power stuff.
Well said. All right, I'm going to advance us on to the next one, and we'll watch this video, and then I'll stop it, and we'll get your comments and thoughts on the other side.
To help improve the range of motion and flexibility in your shoulders, lats, and mid-back, here's a good stretch for you. It's called a kneeling bench curl. You're going to find yourself a flat bench or an ottoman or a coffee table. You want to kneel down next to it, get yourself a broomstick or a golf club. Place your elbows up on the edge of the bench. Place your hands about shoulder width. You're going to sit back on your heels. You're going to slowly lower your shoulders down and then do a curl with the bar till you feel a gentle stretch through the shoulders, mid-back, lats. Breathe normally. Hold that for about a 15-second count. Come out of it and maybe do that 2 or 3 times. Good stretch to enhance upper body mobility. That's going to help you make that good shoulder turn and follow through in your golf swing. That's going to help your golf game. Give it a shot.
All right, I'm going to stop it again. One thing I want to ask you, and I'm going to get you to explain this, because you mentioned it particularly in this video here, and about breathing normally with a lot of these exercises, because when should people be inhaling and when should they be exhaling? Because that's something too, when you're doing certain exercise, if you're not exhaling or inhaling at the appropriate time, it can make those exercises a little bit more challenging. So is there a right way to breathe, as it were? I mean, obviously we all have to breathe, but is there a right time to inhale and exhale through the exercise?
I mean, the important thing here is that you're breathing, that you're not holding your breath as you go through the exercise. Because when you hold your breath, you get into what's called a Valsalva maneuver, which increases abdominal pressure, which can impede blood flow back to the heart. And in very extreme cases, impeding the blood flow back to the heart means less blood to the brain, so people can pass out. That's extreme. But you definitely want to breathe, and if you can exhale on your effort, think of E for exhale, E for effort. That's a good way to go about it. Usually, if you're counting the reps out loud to yourself, 1, 2, you're going to exhale on the effort. And usually when you're lifting weights is when the weights are going up and down and stuff like that. But breathing is important. All right, so that exercise is I love that stretch, especially because I see a lot of people that are tight in the lats, shoulders, and in the mid-back area. And again, with the kinetic chain, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so this is a big one for a lot of golfers that I work with, the tightness in that area. So that's a great stretch, to kind of isolate those areas and get more flexibility, more range of motion.
Well said. Yeah, I like that. It was a good one as well. And again, stretching, people think it's all about, when they think about working out and doing exercise, it's all about lifting and stretching or lifting and that, whether it be weights or with bands like you used in your earlier exercise. But it's also about breathing and stretching, and so there's other components as well. So let's watch this one here. This was one of my favorite ones. The medicine ball slams. I like this one here. So let's take a look at this and I'll get your thoughts on the other side.
when you're ready to incorporate some power/speed exercises into your routine, this one's a good one. It's medicine ball slams. And again, it's important to make sure that you build a good base of strength and flexibility before you get into your power exercises. Otherwise, you may increase the risk of injury. What you're going to do for this exercise is you're going to take a medicine ball, fairly light to begin with. You're going to stand next to a wall, fairly close to a wall. The nice thing about these power exercises is that it helps recruit the faster twitch muscle fibers that you're going to use when you swing a golf club. So you're going to take the medicine ball fairly close to the wall. You're going to go into a little bit of a backswing, and I want you to emphasize the hip initiating the downswing. All right, so this is a good exercise to work on sequence as well. So it's really the hips that are leading the way. The arms really aren't moving. I don't want to see this movement. I want to see this movement. The hips rotating. You do 15 to 20 of those, you're going to get a little winded. Any speed power exercise is going to tax the cardio system a little bit, but a real good exercise to focus on the golf sequence, hips, trunk, arms, and club, and to recruit those fast twitch muscle fibers. Give it a shot for better, more powerful golf. This one's going to get you down the fairway a little further.
All right, so I'm going to stop that one there as well. Two things I want to point out real quick, and then I'll let you give a little bit more explanation. The one thing that I really want to emphasize here, I want people to really pay particular attention on this, is it's a hip rotation. What I didn't see there, and I think this is spot on, is so important for golfers, is you didn't slide the hips when you rotate. You made a point of actually your hip rotation, and then you rotated through as you were, doing the exercise. And that's something I hope people really take notice is that there was actually a hip rotation, not a hip slide. And we see a lot of golfers out there sliding their hips even into the backswing, and that's a no-no. So I just wanted to bring that out, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is another great exercise that I make sure that the golfers eventually get into, especially when they get into the power phase. And you can do this against the wall, with yourself, just by yourself. You can do it with a partner. And what you would do is stand about 10, 15, 20 feet apart. And you would have the individual who's doing the tossing face opposite or face with your side towards you. And they would get into their backswing and they would do the same movement pattern, but instead of throwing the ball against the wall, they're going to throw it to you. The further apart you are, the more effort or emphasis, I try to emphasize the individual to really kind of get the hips to initiate that, because that's where they're going to get the power to throw that ball. And I have them try to knock me over, just really kind of, throw it as hard as you can. And in order to do that, you've got to initiate that throw with the hips. So this is, again, a real good power exercise that you want to eventually incorporate into your program, because it does emphasize the sequencing of the golf swing. And as I mentioned in the video, the recruitment of those fast twitch muscle fibers. That's crucial for developing power.
Yeah. And again, too, I think you mentioned at the very beginning that you don't have to have a super heavy medicine ball. Obviously you don't want to injure yourself in that. So you can get a little bit lighter one to start with. And as you develop, you might want to get one that is a little bit heavier. But again, it's not really so much a muscle building exercise as it is activating those twitch muscles, as you said, those fast twitch muscles. And that's not to say you're not going to develop muscle, right? But
yeah, and you'd be surprised how many people have difficulty, with the sequencing when they're doing this exercise and even the Russian twist exercise and the next one coming up too. I mean, a lot of times, it takes them several attempts at it to really kind of get that sequence down. And again, you practice it here, you're going to do it out on the golf course.
Now, I noticed when you're doing this video here, and this is the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to ask you, is this something that, the demonstration you did would be great for somebody that's a right-handed golfer? would it be worth it to switch and do it the other way as well to kind of get about? Because, one of the things that we always hear about with golf is, because we're swinging the same way for right-handed or left-handed, the same way all the time. So muscles on one side of your body tend to develop a little bit more. So would this be one of those exercises too that you would definitely want to switch and do it? It might seem a little more awkward going the other way because you're used to going one way, but I think that would be important as well to do it both sides, correct?
Definitely. I mean, again, symmetry, right? We're all about symmetry.
Right.
We want to develop symmetry in the body. So yeah, that's a good point. That anything you do from one side, you should do from the other side. And in some cases, if you find that you have a weakness on one particular side, you want to spend a little extra time with that weakness. Maybe do an extra set on that side. Start with the right, go to the left, and then come back to the right if the right is a weaker component for that particular exercise, until they kind of catch up and until you feel they're symmetrical in terms of strength and in terms of range of motion. So yeah, that is key, and that is crucial for keeping injury risk down. Keep those triggers from hurting you while you're out in the golf course.
Yeah, well said. All right, we're going to advance into our last video here, and this is, as Bob said, is another good one here. So let's take a look, and then we'll get your thoughts on the other side.
As you get into the power phase of your workout, you really want to start thinking about swing sequence as well. So this is a good exercise to kind of combine the two. It's called the diagonal backstep punch. You're going to take an exercise tube, you're going to wrap it around something solid. You're going to take a handle in each hand. You want to take the top handle with the inside hand, the bottom handle with the outside hand. Place both against your chest. Get yourself some tension in the tube. Keep your knees bent for a little more stability. You're going to take a back step. Okay, that's the swing sequence, right? The swing starts from the ground up. So it starts with the hips, opening up the hips, and then the trunk, and then the arms. Boom. All right. Step diagonally and punch. Boom. Breathe out. If you want more tension, you just step further away from your anchor point. 15 to 20 of these, and then you switch to the other side. It combines a power move with the swing sequence. That's going to help the brain-body connection, as well as recruiting those faster twitch muscle fibers that you need for the golf swing. That's going to get you a better swing, better golf.
Our videos obviously are very self-explanatory, all of them were, but just talk about this again. Is really helping with the rotation and helping develop strength in your core, not just in your upper body and so forth. So walk us through this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so again, important to develop the strength flexibility first. Give yourself some time to develop that base, and then you can start jumping into the power/speed exercises. And you can see the apparatus that is used for a lot of these exercises. The exercise tubing is great because as you stretch that tubing out, the intensity, you get more, an intense feedback, or what's the word I'm looking for? The exercise becomes more intense because the thing gets stretched out, versus when you're working with dumbbells that kind of stay the same weight throughout the full range of motion. So exercise tubing is great. The medicine balls are really good to incorporate into your power moves. And, I would dedicate the power exercises. What I generally do with a lot of the golfers is start with a little cardio warm-up, do some stretching, do some strength exercises, do some more stretching, and or incorporate some power at that point, and then again end with more stretching. You can do that within an hour's time, 45-minute time period, and if you can do that 3 days a week, you're going to get some pretty good results. And again, the power exercises are crucial for developing, in recruiting those faster twitch muscle fibers that you're going to use during a short, quick burst that the golf swing is. So, just incorporating. If you aren't incorporating them into your program now, definitely get them into your program, because it will help you get down the fairway And always better coming in with a 9-iron versus a 7-iron to the greens, right, Coach?
Yeah, that's right. And let me just add one thing real quick too, about timing. Any time is a good time to start something like this if you haven't been doing it already. But as we're getting ready, in some parts of the country, we're getting into that winter season, especially up in the Northeast, Northwest, where people don't have the opportunity to get outside. And that now is the time to really incorporate these exercises and a lot of the other things that we've talked about through the season. Go back and watch the earlier episodes that Bob has been on, and look at some of the things that we talked about in getting prepared throughout the season. But there's no excuse. These things, like I said, if you can't get to the gym for whatever reason, maybe you're up in an area, the gym's not that close by, you just are under time. These are things, again, those stretch bands, you can get those pretty much anywhere at most of your sporting goods stores. And medicine balls, same thing. And, everybody's got somewhere that they can do a workout in their home, do some good stretching. And that, as we talked about earlier, and as you hear mentioned again, but there's no excuse. You don't need to go out if you can't. You can do these right at home, but the main thing is do them properly and do them on a regular, consistent basis. And I think you would, excuse me, I think you would agree, Bob, that by doing that, by the time they come back out next season, they're going to notice a big difference in how how they're able to play this game. And that's really what it's about. It's about enjoyment of the game. And but if you're just sitting on your laurels, as they say, and you're not doing these exercises, you're not going to see improvement. And I don't care what swing coach you go to, if your body is not in good tune-up condition, you're going to see it's going to show in your golf game. It's not always the equipment. Everybody's, this is one thing, and you can allude to this as well. This is one thing I hear as a golf instructor for many, many years. Everybody blames the equipment, and then they blame the coach if they're not hitting it well. But a lot of times it's just the shape that their body's in, and the physical conditioning that they've put themselves through or not put themselves through over the years that can be a lot of the culprit as well. Am I right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, I've assessed, ton of golfers, all levels, juniors, amateurs, LPGA players, and everybody's got some sort of muscular deficiencies that's kind of holding them back a little bit from the perfect swing, and it all relates again to that kinetic chain. Again, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you can find somebody in your area that can take you through a golf fitness assessment, that would be a great thing to start with, because once you identify where those deficiencies are, now you can kind of put together a time efficient program to focus on those so that you're going to get quicker results out on the golf course. And then you progress from the corrective phase of fixing the deficiencies. At some point, you start to incorporate some golf specific strength exercises. And then again, some point down the road, and your trainer will know to start incorporating some of those power exercises to help, in terms of enhancing that distance. So definitely it could be a good first move.
And just to sort of tie this in a bow here, if we will, as a swing coach, as a golf instructor, to me, what you do is really crucial to start first, because if somebody's coming to me and they're having physical issues, then they're not able to perform the swing correctly. And, I can tweak it and I can do certain things in the interim, but what ultimately ends up happening is they end up, creating more potential for injury and things like that. So, getting into a good fitness routine that's, certainly golf inducing is the way to go. And then you can worry about tweaking your swing and doing things. And you're going to find that you're going to be a much better player than trying to do it, learning the golf swing first. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but, if you're learning the golf swing, but you're not keeping your body and tuned up in the right way, you're going to end up compensating in ways that you shouldn't be doing, because you're deficient in certain areas of your body. So I am a firm believer, see somebody that's a certified golf fitness instructor, get an assessment done, find out where the weak areas are, do that in conjunction with your swing coach as well. You can get them to work together. Many of them are doing that now. They're hooking up with a golf fitness instructor and a swing coach at the same time, and they're working together. I mean, the pros have been doing it for years. That's why, they're consistent out on the tour all the time. And they certainly have their moments too, but that's why they're so much stronger and able to hit greater distance now, because they are working with specialized training and that is geared specific for the game that they're playing. So any final thoughts before we get ready to wrap up?
No, I mean, I think you said it all in a nutshell. You know, the one thing you don't want is to compensate somehow because of the fact that your muscle can't do what the instructor is trying to get them to do, because compensation will lead to injury more or less down the road. So if you love this game and you want to play it forever, you know, like Ted says, kind of get that collaboration going between the fitness and the skill piece, you know, with a teaching instructor or golf fitness professional, and you're on your way.
Well said. All right. Just a final quick thought here. If Bob, if folks want to check out your website, where can they go? I know you've got a lot of great great blog posts up there, and I know that you've also put up the segments that we've done together up there for Golf Talk Live on this fitness segment, so they can get that access there right on your website. So what's the website? And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, it's Golf Fit Carolina. So it's one F and one T. So GOLFIT Carolina.com.
Perfect. So go there. You'll see all of the work that Bob has been doing for many, many years. And if you're interested in getting his book, Functional Golf Fitness Training, you can get the link is on that website as well. But if not, you can go to thebookpatch.com and you can just type in Functional Golf Fitness Training, or you can probably actually just type in Bob's name, Bob Forman, no E, and you'll get access to there as well. But definitely go to his website as well. Also, I want to thank my earlier guests on the Coach's Corner panel, John Decker and Jamie Leno-Zimron. Thanks, guys, for doing a great job, as always. And again, my special thanks to my fitness expert here, Bob Forman, for always bringing his best. And again, watch this episode over and over again. Watch these videos that Bob has provided here. Again, it's a great start, but go out and get that fitness assessment. And you've got no excuse. You've got all winter to work on these things to get yourself in tip-top shape for next year. But on that note, we'll be getting ready to wind down the season here. Just a few more shows left. Bob, of course, will be back before the season ends, but our last show will be December 11th. Will be the last show for the season, and we'll take an extended break and start up a little bit later on in the new year. And I'll give you all that information in an upcoming show. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Again, go to the iGolf Sports YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe. You can see all of the previously aired shows, including tonight's, will be up there a little bit later. And you can check that out as well. But on that note, God bless everybody. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next time right here on Golf Talk Live.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.